Hello and welcome back to my channel. In this video, we're going to be looking at the IUPAC nomenclature of alkenes. What are alkenes? Alkenes are unsaturated hydrocarbons that contain at least one carbon-to-carbon double bond. They follow the general rule CnH2n. The quick steps to follow when naming alkenes are 1. Find the longest chain with the double bond. Number it to give the double bond the lowest number. Identify and name the substituent. Specify the position of the double bond and use cis and trans or E and Z if needed. For this example on the screen, if we start counting from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, the double bond would bear 3. Because that's where it started from, okay? But if we start counting from the right, the double bond will bear 2 instead, which means from the right counting would be better. Identify and name the substituent. There is no substituent in this particular alkane because everything attached to the parent chain or the longest chain are all hydrogens. Therefore, we don't have to do that for this one. Now specify the position of the double bond. The double bond is on 2. Cis or trans is not needed for this one. So I'm going to go ahead and name it. I have 5 carbons as my longest chain. That is pents. My double bond started at carbon 2, so I'm going to put 2 right here, okay? And then alkenes are going to end with ENE, and that is it. So the name of this compound will be pent-2-ene. For the second example, we were given this alkene to name. First thing is to identify your longest carbon chain that includes the alkane. Now, if you look at this compound, the longest carbon chain is actually all the way to this, okay? But that does not include all the alkene. It only includes one part of the alkene, which is 1 carbon. So that cannot be our longest chain for this particular compound. Remember that in line structures, the carbons are not written out. So for this particular one, this is a carbon. This is a carbon as well. Now, all these are carbons. So my longest continuous chain would be the one that includes the 2 carbon double bonds. All right. If it doesn't include it, then that cannot be your longest continuous carbon chain for the alkene. And I'm going to also count from the side that gives the alkene a lower number. So I'm going to start counting from here. This is going to be my carbon 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. That's my longest continuous carbon chain, which means that this part would be the substituent. Since I have 2 carbons, that is going to be ethyl. Okay? Now, once I've identified my longest chain and I've also identified my substituent, I can go ahead and name this compound. The substituent will be named first. This ethyl group is attached to carbon 2. So you're going to have this as 2-ethyl, then pent for 5. So this is pent, and then the double bond started from carbon 1, and that will end with ENE, and that is 2-ethyl pent 1-ene. Example 3, you're given this compound and you're asked to name it. You find out there is a double bond, and of course that means it's an alkene. First thing is identify your longest chain that includes the alkene. For this particular one, is actually very clear. We can see that from here to here, that is my longest chain. So let's actually indicate all the carbons, okay, to make it easy for visual learners. So all the blue dots are the carbon atoms. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 carbons. Every other thing outside of that is the substituent. So these are the substituents. I have 1 carbon substituent, that's called methyl. This is also methyl. This is 2, that's ethyl. Okay, so I have my substituent identified and named. To start naming, you start with your substituent. That's the rule. So I have 2 different types of substituents, the ethyl and the methyl group. When it comes to multiple substituents, different multiple substituents, you arrange them alphabetically. So I'm going to start with 4 for the ethyl group. So 4-ethyl. On carbon 3 and carbon 5, I have the methyl groups. So I'm going to use dimethyl, and then I have oct. For the 8 carbons, the longest continuous chain is 8 carbons. So that will be oct. And this double bond starts from carbon 2, so oct 2. And then the double bond ends with ENE. That is the suffix for the double bond. So the name of this compound will be 4-ethyl 3,5-dimethyl oct 2-ene. For example 4, what if you have 2 double bonds? How would you name them? So this is what we call dienes. Okay, we also have trienes. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. Okay, so hairs, and you're gonna do 1 for this started from 1, the next one is on 3, comma 3, and then you just say diene to show that there are 2 of those, and the positions is 1 and 3, carbon 1 and carbon 3. Okay, so that's how you name it when it's 2. If it's 3, the same thing. Put all the positions and then end it with triene for 3. Every other thing about the substituent are the same. It's just the parent chain that would be a bit different because of the 2 or the 3 multiple alkenes. Now, how about when you have to use cis and trans? So most questions, they will let you know if you need to use cis or trans, as the case may be. If you are given a compound like this and asked to name, it is required that you use cis or trans or E and Z, as the case may be. So cis and trans are used when there are identical groups attached to the double bonds, while E and Z provides a more precise way to describe the geometry when the substituents are different. So for this one, you can easily see that there is same identical groups present, which would be hydrogen. So there's 2 hydrogens right here. Okay, so we can use cis and trans. When the groups attached to the double bond, the larger groups attached to the double bonds are on the same side, then you have cis. So this particular one will be cis. Count the longest continuous carbon chain and start from the side that gives the double bond a lower number. So if this is my carbon, that's 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, 5, 6, and then 7. Okay, so that means that this is going to be cis. That is 3. The double bond starts from 3, so that will be 3-ene. So that's how you use the cis. Now for this other example, you have these 2 groups. Okay, you can see that they are on the opposite side. This one goes up, this one here goes up, this goes down. they're on the opposite side of the double bond. So that is what we call trans. So to name this, you start with the trans in front, and then you count, okay? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, so I counted from the side that gives the double bond a lower number. So the name of this compound would then be trans. 8 is oct. And then it starts from 3 as well. And that would just be trans oct 3-ene. Okay? Trans oct 3-ene. And that's how you can do the cis and trans naming. Now, how about E and Z? So a typical E and Z would be this. Okay, something like this. Now, there is no identical groups attached. This is the best time to use the E and the Z. The E is when the two groups, the two bulky groups attached to the double bonds are on opposite side. Okay, the E is opposite, and the Z or Z is the same side. So looking at these double bonds, I have chlorine and bromine attached. Those are larger molecules compared to CH3. So the one I'm going to be comparing are the chlorines and the bromine. And they are both on the same side of the double bond. Therefore, this will be Z. Okay? Now, once you've identified that that is Z, go ahead and count. So if I start counting from here, that will be 1, 2, 3. Now note, you only count carbon chain, right? So this is going to be giving the double bond 2. But if I count from here, 1, 2, 3, it's going to be giving the double bond 1. So I'm going to actually count from the right this time. So we have substituents, okay? My longest chain is the whole of that 1, 2, 3, which means that the chlorine and the bromine are both substituents. So starting with those substituents, B will come first. So 1 bromo, 2 chloro. So bromine becomes bromo, chlorine becomes chloro. And then I have 3 longest chains. So that would be prop. 1 for where it started from the double bond. And then this ends with E and E. So that's how you name with E and Z, okay? If that was looking like what you have right now, it's not going to be Z anymore or Z. It will become E because those two groups are now on the opposite sides. Okay, so you see the chlorine and the bromine are now opposite of each other. Therefore, it is E. So E is opposite, Z or Z is the same side. And that's it. So that's how you name it. All right, it's time to test yourself. Okay, so I want you to go ahead and name this compound. Include cis, trans, E, or Z as applicable. And put your answers in the comments. I'm going to be checking the comments for your answers and I will pin the best one. Thank you so much for watching. And if this video has helped you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Bye for now and see you in my next video.